Today we are going to study life cycle of Sargassum. You know that Sargassum is a very common brown alga or brown seaweed, and this brown seaweed Sargassum has to be studied with reference to occurrence, thallus structure, internal structure of thallus, reproduction, systematic position, and so on. So first point is a occurrence. This genus Sargassum, which is a Spanish Sargassum seaweed, commonly known as gulfweed, and it is represented by about 150 species. This is a marine brown alga found along the rocky shores and forming free-floating masses, commonly in tropical oceans or seas. This alga is also found in temperate and subtropical regions of both northern and southern hemispheres. So alga is very common in the form of free-floating masses in tropical oceans, but some of the species of Sargassum are also growing in temperate and subtropical regions of both northern and southern hemisphere. It is very common in Africa, South America, Australia, and so on. This alga was growing abundantly, and in West Africa, a part of Atlantic Ocean becomes densely occupied by Sargassum, and the region is called as Sargasso Sea. Now this is no doubt a complete ocean, largely occupied by a huge mass of Sargassum, and the species growing there is the Sargassum filipendula. Now this species, Sargassum filipendula, a free-floating large-scale that found in a Sargasso Sea, was discovered by Columbus in 1492 as the ships were held fast by the seaweeds. So these persons traveling through ships were surprised, and due to huge growth of Sargassum, the name Sargasso Sea is given to the part of Atlantic Ocean in West Africa. In India, 16 species of Sargassum are commonly found in a coastal region such as Porbandar, Bombay, Oka, Lakshadweep Island, and so on. Where in these seashores, the bottom of ocean, where it is rocky, it grows, whereas in a sandy bottom, it usually not observed. Among the 16 species that are found in India, the most common species are Sargassum illicifolium, Sargassum tenerium, Sargassum whitei, Sargassum duplicatum, and Sargassum cinereum. So these are the most common Indian species that occurs or grows in a Porbandar, Bombay, Oka, Lakshadweep Island. So the second point of life cycle study is thallus structure. Thallus of Sargassum apparently looks like angiospermic plant, as this algal thallus is having root-like, stem-like, and leaf-like appendages or branches, and therefore, though the member of algae, the thallus apparently looks like angiospermic plant. This multicellular thallus is a sporophyte and diploid one. This sporophytic diploid thallus is erect and branched, and it is differentiated into a basal holdfast, cylindrical main axis, and this cylindrical main axis bears different types of lateral branches that may be lateral leaf-like branches, lateral balloon-like structures, axial, filiform, branched receptacles, and so on. So the first point or first part of the thallus is a holdfast. This is the basal-most portion of the thallus, and it is either discoid, that is in the form of a flattened disc-like structure, or in some few species, this holdfast is a vertistolon-like structure. So whatever may be the morphology of the holdfast, whether it is a disc-like or vertistolon-like structure, this holdfast remains attached to the substratum and thus helps for firm attachment of the thallus to the substratum. And this is the function identical with the roots of higher plant, and therefore it is said that holdfast acts as a root-like structure. Then second is a main axis. This main axis is also called as stipe or stem-like structure, and the length of this stem-like structure ranges from 10 to 50 centimeter. That depends upon the species. So as the main axis is the main part of the plant body, the thallus of Sargassum or plant body of Sargassum measures about 10 to 50 centimeter in height or length, and this erect, flattened or cylindrical structure, which apparently looks like a stem-like structure, is the main axis or is called as stipe, and it bears different branches. First type of branch that is produced by the main axis is the primary laterals. These primary laterals originate on main axis. Due to its unlimited growth, these primary laterals are also called as long shoots. Now, this is the slide showing the sporophytic, branched, erect, macroscopic thallus of Sargassum. This basal portion is a disc-like structure that is called as holdfast that performs function of attachment to the substratum. And from this holdfast, here you can observe a erect, flattened or cylindrical portion which is either called as main axis or stem-like structure, or some authors refer it as a stipe. Now, this main axis measures about 10 to 50 centimeter in length, and therefore height of this plant body is about 10 to 50 centimeter. Now, this is a flexible wick portion that remains floating in seawater, freely swimming in a free water, but at the base it is attached to the substratum. So along with water waves, usually it bends in any direction, but at the base it is firmly attached to the substratum, and this is usually when this thallus is very young. Once this thallus grows, usually the holdfast becomes weaker, the basal portion of the main axis gets detached from this holdfast, and therefore the entire thallus floats along with the water of ocean in the form of floating masses, that is called as a drifted mass of Sargassum. And you can observe such masses even on sandy shores where it never grows or never occurs, because this holdfast forms the firm attachment only with the rocky substratum. Then this main axis that bears the first type of branches, that is called as a primary laterals. Now here in this case, this is the primary lateral. Now this primary lateral shows unlimited growth, and therefore it is also called as a long branches. As far as their morphology or their behavior is concerned, they are behaving as a main axis. Like main axis, it also produces secondary laterals at nodes or at some points, and therefore you can compare the main axis which is growing here, and at the same time the primary lateral or long branches. So these two main axis and primary laterals are exactly identical with each other. Now the second type of branches that are produced are secondary laterals, or these secondary laterals are also called as leafy appendages or leaf-like structure. Some refer it as a frond. Now, these are structures which shows a limited growth. The length of this branch as compared to here is a limited. Here it is also a limited. Here it is also a limited. So these are called as short branches, but these short branches, they are highly flattened, and these highly flattened structures apparently looks like leaves of angiosperm. So if you observe each such leaf-like structure, it is without a stalk. In case of angiosperm, stalk of leaf is called as petiole, and such petiolate leaves are present in most of the angiosperms. But here, these are the branches which apparently looks like leaves due to their flattened nature, and this leaf-like structure is having, if you observe over here, it is having only a central midrib. Here also it is having only a central midrib, and the margin of this leaf-like structure is either serrate, dentate, or in some cases it is a smooth or entire, and apex is acute. And shape of this leaf-like structure varies from species to species. So each such leaf-like structure which is having a definite shape in a particular species, a distinct midrib, either serrate or dentate or entire margin, and acute apex, bears many dots on its surface. Here also you can observe so many dots on its surface, and these dots are nothing but these are the cryptostomata or cryptoblasts. Then the next type of outgrowth that is produced on the main axis is air bladders. So these are the some outgrowths that are either present at the base of leaf-like structure, or in the axil of leaf-like structure, or directly on the main axis. Here you can observe in this photograph, this is an air bladder that directly produced on a special branch in the axil of leaf-like structure or secondary lateral. So the position of this air bladder again varies from species to species. Each such air bladder is a balloon-like structure having very short stalk and a flattened or dilated portion that contain abundant air, and therefore the name given to this is called as air bladder. Now this air bladder is a special structure, and it performs two basic functions. One basic function performed by this air bladder is it provides buoyancy, or it helps for floating in a moving water of ocean. Otherwise, what will happen when there is a tidal movement, the water runs fastly and the thallus will get fall on the bottom, where you can have addition of so many sand particles, and ultimately the thallus will get buried in the bottom. But this is not happening in nature, because this entire thallus of Sargassum remains suspended in a ocean water due to presence of so many such air bladders. So the first basic function performed by the air bladders is it provides buoyancy. Then second important function, this entire plant is growing in a water, submerged in water, but for its metabolic activities it requires gases like carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis and the oxygen for the process of respiration. So these gases, they are stored over here in this air bladder, and thus this air bladder also helps for gases exchange, or you can say that the important function, another important function performed by the air bladder is a gases exchange. Then the fourth type of outgrowth that is produced by the main axis is receptacle. Here you can observe the much branched, dichotomously branched, filiform or finger-like structures that are directly produced on the main axis, or they may be produced in the axil of secondary laterals, directly on the main axis or sometimes on the secondary axis also. Now this dichotomously branched, repeatedly dichotomously branched structure is called as receptacle. Here the receptacle is shown here, and in this photograph this dark brown colored hair-like structure which are dichotomously branched is a receptacle. The function of receptacle in this plant body is a reproduction, that bears reproductive structure. So function of this basal holdfast is root-like. The main axis is a stem-like structure and performs function like a stem of higher plant. Then these are the secondary laterals or leaf-like structures which are brown in color due to presence of chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C, and a brown pigment fucoxanthin, which is a dominant that masks the green color of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll C, and therefore the thallus structure apparently looks like brown, and so we refer it as a brown algae. So these brown colored leaf-like structures perform function of photosynthesis and manufacture the food material for the entire plant. Then air bladder that helps for the buoyancy and also for the gases exchange. And the last structure that we have studied is a receptacle, which is the fertile structure that is producing sex organs for the process of sexual reproduction. So this is about the thallus structure of Sargassum, which is a sporophyte, diploid, erect, multicellular, macroscopic, that measures about 10 centimeter to 50 centimeter in some species of Sargassum. Thank you.